Welcome to Snooze History, where we explore the mysteries of the past with the gentle curiosity they deserve. Tonight we journey to the heart of the ancient Maya world, where magnificent cities once rose above the jungle canopy, where astronomers tracked the movements of Venus with stunning precision, where artists created beauty that still takes our breath away, and where, in the span of less than 2 centuries, one of history's most sophisticated civilizations seemingly vanished into the green embrace of the rainforest, leaving behind only questions carved in stone and whispered through the trees. Before we begin, I just wanted to say thank you for joining, and I hope your thoughts start to slow and you start to rest. Also, comment down below what time it is where you live. Now let's get started. Picture the Yucatan Peninsula in the year 800 CE, during what archaeologists call the Classic period, the golden age of Maya civilization. The morning sun rises over Tikal, one of the greatest cities ever built in the Americas. Towering pyramids, some reaching heights of over 200 feet, pierce through the morning mist, their limestone faces painted in vibrant reds and whites that gleam in the early light. The city sprawls across miles of carefully modified landscape, home to perhaps 100,000 people, connected by raised causeways that are cut straight through swamps and forests with the confidence of a culture that has mastered its environment. In the central plaza, scribes are already at work, their brushes moving across bark paper codices, recording the sacred calendar, documenting royal lineages that stretch back centuries, calculating astronomical events that won't occur for generations. Nearby, stone carvers put finishing touches on a new stela, massive stone monument that will commemorate the current king's 20-year reign, his victories in battle, his divine right to rule descended from the gods themselves. The markets are beginning to fill with merchants from distant cities, their goods testimony to trade networks that span from the Mexican highlands to the Caribbean coast. Obsidian blades from Guatemala, jade from the Motagua Valley, colourful quetzal feathers from the cloud forests, cacao beans that serve as both luxury beverage and currency, all flow through Maya cities in an economic system of remarkable sophistication. This is a civilization at its absolute peak, a culture that has thrived for over 1,000 years, that has developed complex mathematics including the concept of zero, that has created 3 separate but interlocking calendar systems of breathtaking precision, that has built cities rivaling anything in Europe or Asia of the same period. To the Maya living in 800 CE, their civilization must have seemed eternal, as permanent as the pyramids rising above the jungle, as reliable as the movements of the stars they tracked with such devotion. Yet within 150 years Tikal will be abandoned. Its pyramids will stand empty, their painted facades fading and crumbling. The great causeways will disappear beneath creeping vegetation. The plazas where tens of thousands gathered for ceremonies will echo only with bird calls and the rustle of leaves. The last dated monument, a stela marking the year 909 CE, will stand as a silent testimony to a civilization's end, its carved glyphs a final message from a culture that is already dying as the stone is being carved. And Tikal is not alone. Across the Maya heartland, the Petén region of northern Guatemala, the lowlands of Belize, parts of Honduras and Mexico, city after magnificent city will be abandoned during this same terrible period. Palenque, Copan, Calakmul, Piedras Negras, Dos Pilas, names that once commanded respect and fear across Mesoamerica will become forgotten ruins, swallowed by the jungle, their stories lost until modern archaeologists begin to decipher the hieroglyphic texts and piece together the tragedy of the classic Maya collapse. Picture the Spanish conquistadors arriving in the Yucatan in the early 1500s, 6 centuries after the classic Maya collapse. They encounter Maya people still living in the region, still speaking Maya languages, still maintaining some traditions of their ancestors. But when the Spanish ask about the great stone cities they find in the jungle, pyramids overwhelmed by strangler figs, palaces where jaguars now den, ball courts silent for centuries, the contemporary Maya have no answers. These cities, they explain, were built by their ancestors long ago, but the knowledge of why they were abandoned has been lost to time. This amnesia is itself part of the mystery. Picture a civilization so thoroughly disrupted that within a few generations, the descendants of the people who built these magnificent cities no longer remembered why they were abandoned, no longer possessed the knowledge to read the hieroglyphic texts covering every monument, no longer understood the sophisticated mathematics and astronomy their ancestors had mastered. It's as if Rome had fallen, and 3 centuries later, Europeans living among the ruins of the Colosseum and the Forum couldn't explain who built them or why they stood empty. The cultural continuity that usually connects one generation to the next had been so profoundly broken that an entire civilization's memory was effectively erased. For modern archaeologists and historians, the Maya collapse represents one of the most compelling mysteries in all of human history. Picture researchers tramping through jungles, documenting ruins, excavating cities buried under centuries of vegetation, slowly piecing together clues from pottery shards and architectural sequences, from skeletal remains and environmental data, from the hieroglyphic texts that archaeologists have only recently learned to read with confidence. What they've discovered is both illuminating and disturbing. The Maya collapse was not a single event, but a cascade of interconnected failures that played out differently in different regions over the course of a century and a half. It was not caused by a single catastrophe. No invading army swept through to destroy the cities. No volcano erupted to bury them. No plague killed everyone simultaneously. Instead, picture something more insidious and more tragic. A civilization whose very success contained the seeds of its own destruction, whose population grew beyond what the land could sustainably support, whose rulers competed in ever more elaborate displays of power while resources dwindled, whose people faced a series of severe droughts that their ancestors' agricultural system could no longer buffer against. Picture a civilization that didn't fall to external conquest, but rather collapse from within, a victim of environmental stress, political fragmentation, and the weight of its own complexity. But before we can understand the collapse, we must first appreciate what was lost. Picture the intellectual achievements of classic Maya civilization, achievements that often surpassed those of contemporary European societies. Maya mathematics, developed independently of Old World systems, included the concept of zero, an abstraction that took Mediterranean civilizations much longer to discover. Their number system, based on 20 rather than 10, allowed for calculations of remarkable precision. Picture Maya astronomers using nothing more than naked eye observations, tracking the movements of Venus with an accuracy that wouldn't be matched in Europe until the Renaissance, predicting eclipses generations in advance, understanding the cycles of the moon and planets with mathematical precision. The Maya calendar system represents perhaps their most sophisticated intellectual achievement. Picture not one but three separate but interlocking calendars. The 260-day sacred calendar used for divination and ritual, the 365-day solar calendar for tracking agricultural seasons, and the long count, a linear count of days from a mythological creation date in 3114 BCE that allowed the Maya to place any date in absolute chronological sequence. These calendars meshed with such precision that a specific combination of dates would repeat only once every 52 years, and the full cycle of the long count spans over 5,000 years. Maya writing, fully deciphered only in recent decades, reveals a literate culture where history and mythology intertwined, where divine kingship was legitimized through elaborate genealogies, where poetry and prophecy were recorded alongside mundane administrative records. Picture scribes, members of the elite, often sons of nobles, who spent years mastering the complex logosyllabic script with its hundreds of different signs, who were honored as artists and intellectuals, whose signature glyphs appear on painted vessels declaring, "This is the work of so-and-so." The architecture staggers the imagination even today. Picture pyramids built without metal tools, without wheeled vehicles, without draft animals, every stone quarried with stone tools, transported by human labour, lifted into place through combinations of ramps, levers, and sheer determination. Picture the corbelled arch, the Maya solution to spanning interior space, creating rooms and passageways within massive stone structures. Picture the astronomical observatories designed to frame specific celestial events, the ball courts where ritual games with cosmic significance were played, the palace complexes with their elaborate rooms and courtyards, and everywhere, art. Picture vibrant murals showing scenes of warfare and ceremony, royalty and captives, gods and mythological events. Picture ceramic vessels painted with such skill that individual artists can be identified by their style, their work prized throughout the Maya world. Picture jade masks, obsidian mirrors, carved wooden lintels, stucco sculptures, an aesthetic tradition of remarkable sophistication and beauty. So how does a civilization of such achievement, such permanence, such sophistication simply disappear? Picture the disturbing implications of the Maya collapse for our own time. If a civilization as advanced as classic Maya society, a culture with sophisticated agriculture, complex political organization, impressive architectural and engineering capabilities, advanced mathematics and astronomy, if such a civilization could fail so completely, what does that tell us about the fragility of all civilizations? The Maya collapse is not ancient history in the sense of being irrelevant to our present. Picture, instead, how it serves as a case study in civilizational vulnerability, in what can happen when environmental stress meets political instability, when population growth outstrips agricultural capacity, when ruling elites become disconnected from the struggles of common people, when short-term thinking sacrifices long-term sustainability. Recent archaeological work has revealed uncomfortable parallels between late classic Maya civilization and our own time. Intensive agriculture, pushing environmental limits, deforestation to clear land for crops and provide fuel for the lime plaster coating Maya cities, climate change in the form of severe droughts, political fragmentation as centralized authority breaks down, increasing warfare between competing centres, growing inequality between elite and commoner. Picture the Maya not as distant, incomprehensible others, but as people fundamentally like us, intelligent, adaptive, creative, facing challenges that overwhelm their capacity to respond effectively. Their collapse was not inevitable. Archaeological evidence suggests multiple points where different choices might have led to different outcomes. But the combination of environmental stress, political choices, and social structures ultimately produced a cascade of failures that their civilization couldn't survive. The Maya were more than builders, they were visionaries. Their cities rose like constellations across the jungles of Mesoamerica, each one aligned not by chance, but by the stars themselves. They mapped the heavens with precision that still humbles modern science. Long before telescopes, they charted the movements of Venus, predicted eclipses, and wove the rhythms of the cosmos into their calendar, a perfect cycle of time and meaning. Their scribes wrote in a language of symbols, each glyph a small universe of sound and story. On walls, in codices, and on towering stone monuments, they captured the essence of kings and gods, battles and births, creation and destruction. Art was not decoration, it was devotion. Their murals breathed with colour, their sculptures with memory. Every carving told a truth of who they were and how they understood the fragile balance between the earth and the divine. They built cities that seemed to defy nature, pyramids rising through mist, observatories that reached for the sky, temples carved with faces that watched both the heavens and the human heart. They mapped the heavens, charted time, and wrote the stars into stone. For hundreds of years, the world of the Maya was a world in full bloom. Their cities thrived under the warmth of the tropical sun. Places like Tikal, Palenque, and Copan glimmered with life. Kings ruled from stone palaces draped in banners, their courts alive with ceremony and song. In the markets below, farmers bartered maize and cacao, while traders carried obsidian, jade, and feathers from lands far beyond the horizon. The Maya were a people in harmony with time itself. Each season, each harvest, each rising sun was part of a sacred rhythm that connected heaven and earth. Their astronomers looked to the stars not with fear, but with awe. They saw the gods written across the night sky, their destinies intertwined with the turning of planets and the cycles of the moon. From the smallest village to the mightiest city, beauty and purpose filled every breath of life. Temples echoed with prayers, rivers shimmered with canoes, and jungle paths glowed in the morning light. For centuries, the world of the Maya shone like gold beneath the sun. The Maya world did not end in fire or conquest. It dimmed, slowly, like the last embers of a great fire fading quietly into ash. The rain stopped coming. Harvests failed. The rivers that once fed their fields shrank to shallow, silent streams. And in the cities that once pulsed with life, hunger began to whisper through the streets. Kingdoms that had traded for centuries turned against each other. Old alliances fractured. Wars flickered like brief, desperate storms, not for glory but for survival. Temples that once echoed with ritual grew still. The songs of priests, the laughter of children, the beat of the drums, all faded one by one. It wasn't a single moment. No one day the world ended. It was the long, slow breath of a civilization slipping into silence. It wasn't a fall. It was a fading. A civilization that simply went quiet. The jungle remembers what people forget. When the Maya walked away, it was the forest that returned to claim what was once its own. Stone temples once carved with gods and kings began to breathe again, cracks opening for roots, vines coiling up columns where banners once fluttered. Plazas that echoed with footsteps and music fell into silence. The only sound now the hum of insects and the call of distant birds. Altars that once burned with sacred fire are cool to the touch. Their carvings, once sharp and proud, are softened by centuries of rain and time. The bright colours that once covered the walls, reds, blues, golds, have faded into gentle ghosts beneath the moss. You can still feel them here, the people who prayed, who danced, who watched the stars. But they are whispers now, a shadow of laughter in the wind, a flicker of movement between the trees. The cities did not fall, they were swallowed. The temples did not crumble, they were embraced. And in the quiet of the overgrowth, life began again, just not human life. The drums stopped, the fires went cold, and the jungle came home. The Maya may have vanished, but their voices were carved to last forever. In jungles where no one walks, the stones still whisper their names. Across the crumbling steps of temples and tombs, the walls are covered in symbols, lines and curves that once sang of kings and gods, victories and offerings, the rhythm of time itself. Each mark was a word, each word a prayer, a story told not with sound but with shadow and light, etched into the skin of the earth. Here a king gazes across centuries, his face still proud though his empire has turned to dust. There a priest offers maize to a god no one remembers, and on the stele, those tall carved stones standing alone in the forest, the last ceremonies are frozen mid-breath, the moment before silence became eternal. The jungles hum with life now. Birds perch on sacred glyphs. Aeon runs down the faces of gods who have not been worshipped in 1,000 years, and yet the stones remain. Weathered, cracked, but still holding their secrets. They speak, but not to us. Their language, once alive, once divine, has slipped beyond reach, beyond translation. All that remains are echoes. The stones still speak, but we no longer understand their language. No one truly knows how the Maya world came to an end. Not in the way we imagine endings, with fire, invasion, or sudden collapse. Their disappearance is quieter, more human. Some say it was the sky that betrayed them. The rains that fed their crops stopped falling year after year, until the earth cracked open like dry parchment. Without maize, without water, even the strongest kings could not hold their cities together. Others point to war, cities once allied turning their armies on one another, each temple rising higher in pride, each victory carving deeper scars into the land. Perhaps it was sickness, an invisible visitor that moved faster than the wind, taking the old, the young, the powerful without reason. And yet there is another possibility, one softer and somehow more profound. Perhaps they didn't vanish at all. Perhaps they simply walked away, left behind the weight of stone and crown, and became part of the jungle, the villages, the people who still speak their language today quietly, in the shadows of the temples their ancestors built. Civilizations don't always end. Sometimes they change shape. Sometimes they whisper instead of shout. Perhaps they didn't vanish. Perhaps they simply changed, and we forgot to follow. The Maya did not disappear. They are still here, breathing, speaking, living in the same lands their ancestors once ruled. In the highlands of Guatemala, in the forests of Belize, in the villages of Mexico and Honduras, you can still hear their language in the wind. It's in the marketplace chatter, in the prayers whispered before dawn, in the songs sung to the corn. Their calendars may have changed, their temples may have turned to stone and vine, but their knowledge, the rhythm of the earth, the seasons, the stars, remains alive in quiet ways. Children still learn the stories of the hero twins and the gods who shaped the world from maize and mud. Elders still burn incense before altars as smoke curls into the same sky their ancestors once charted. The Maya live not in the ruins, but in the hearts that remember. Their legacy is not buried beneath the jungle. It's carried in footsteps that walk the same paths, in hands that touch the same soil, in voices that speak the same words. They are the descendants of astronomers, builders, and poets. Their history did not end. It continues quietly with every sunrise. Their blood still runs through the rivers. Their words still rise with the dawn. When the night falls over the jungle, the world grows very still. The ruins breathe beneath the moonlight, stone faces worn smooth by centuries, roots curling gently around the memories of kings and dreams of gods. The wind moves through the temples like a sigh, whispering across the carvings, stirring the dust of forgotten prayers. If you listen closely, you might hear something ancient, a rhythm older than empire, a heartbeat beneath the vines and stars. The Maya are not gone. Their voices are in the rivers, their words in the smoke of morning fires, their stories written in the constellations above you. Time has not taken them, it has only hidden them beneath its silence. When the night falls over the jungle, listen closely. The Maya are not gone. They're simply waiting to be remembered. Good night, and rest peacefully.